I mean, I'm gonna do like a brief intro in the beginning, only because, but that's just for the full video, which we do need to probably have a YouTube page too at some point.
Okay.
Um,
Let's go whenever you want to go.
is it running now?
It's running now.
All right, so I'd like to introduce Sal Cuccinati. Sal is a partner in Artesa Specialty Construction. Me, Sal, and his dad Steve. We specialize in stucco remediation, but we also do a whole lot more than that. But let's start with stucco, all right?
Sure.
Because that is kind of, what a lot of agents come to us for. It's kind of what we're known for. Now, as a realtor, I always recommend, if I can see, you can generally see a stucco problem from the outside. There's also stucco problems that we can't see, right? But if it's a bad stucco problem, you can usually see it from the outside. Is that fair?
There are times where I would say it's actually more coincidental. Not all staining on stucco or cracks necessarily means water intrusion.
Mm-hmm.
If you see it, I definitely think it should be something where you go, oh, okay, red flag. But, I've recommended to you in the past time and any other agent that I work with, get a stucco inspection.
A pre-listing stucco inspection.
A pre-listing stucco inspection. If you're on the buying side, obviously try to get one if that's possible, if they'll allow it. But
Yeah.
that's what you want. You want the stucco inspection because a lot of those cracks and the staining on the stucco, sometimes it's simply cosmetic cleaning. It can be filled.
Yeah.
It can be sealed. It does not necessarily mean an entire wall of stucco needs to come down. And knowing that ahead of time is a huge advantage, especially when it comes to listing a house.
And working with you guys in the past for so many years, now like when I'm talking to sellers of stucco homes, I just tell them get the pre-listing stucco inspection done. Then we'll know where the spots are. Right? We have bad spots, we fix the spots, we seal it up with some paint. It looks brand new. Right? Some paint and some caulk, and fix the spots, the problem spots that are behind the stucco, because the problem that a lot of people run into, I think why stucco is a deal killer for a lot of agents, is because they get a stucco inspection and then they run it by some stucco company that explodes the quote and makes it a humongous number because they kind of know there's not that many people that do it, really. And the quotes are across the board high. I mean, the first time I came to you guys, I had a $60,000 quote on a stucco job, and it was just outrageous. And we got in and out of there, you guys, for $18,000, I think it was.
Yeah.
I mean, a third of the cost, less than that. And it's just because, I think the approach that we take, and it's one of the reasons why realtors like to work with us too, is because we're not out here trying to kill people. It's where's the problem spots, and the whole house doesn't have to come down because of one bad wall or some bad windows.
That's correct. First thing that I'll say on top of that is any kind of stucco job that we're going to do, especially if it's remediation, we're going to warranty that. So regardless of whether the price or the project seems like, well, your scope is less and your numbers are less, because we get that a lot too. If I don't think it's going to work, I'm not going to warranty it. So why would I do it?
Yeah.
And I say that because I've actually had requests from clients ask me to do certain things that I say, look, I'll do it this way if this is what you're willing to pay for, but I will not warranty it.
Mm-hmm.
You're not letting me get down to the root cause of the water. So that's the first part. The second part is, our mantra in general and the way that we handle, like you said, we don't kill people on price, but it has more to do with let's focus on the problem.
Mm-hmm.
With all buildings and, even if it's an in-home inspection, codes are going to change. They're going to change every 5 years, every decade, every 20 years, sometimes year over year, depending on what it is. If our goal was to bring every home up to code as it pertains to the exterior and the stucco, if you bought a house prior to 2015, you got to rip it all off, because technically it's not going to be to code. That does not mean that the system, the way that it was installed, is not working properly as it pertains to water intrusion. That's why the inspection is important. The inspection tells us which areas the system is not working, and let's focus there.
And a lot of problems can be sort of avoided, even on those early 2000s where it's not the best product, right? The stucco that they used was an inferior product that they put on, but you can still maintain that, right, through caulking and painting and making sure, as long as it was installed right with head flashing and things like
Correct. And look, some of those houses even are missing head flashing and kick out flashing and all kinds of things that once upon a time were best practices and now they're actually code. That being said, that doesn't necessarily mean that those areas are causing water issues. And you're right. You know, I would say the biggest issue that I find in most stucco homes that require remediation is a lack of maintenance, which usually was not necessarily even caused by the owner. It was caused by a lack of communication, either with the original builder to the original owner, or from one owner to another. You know, the whisper down the lane game kind of just fell apart.
that. People just don't know.
They just don't know.
I mean, if you haven't sold and been in the transaction and had a conversation with us or a stucco professional, you just don't know.
Correct.
You just don't, it's not something you slap on and you never touch it again. It's like every 5 or 6 years, you probably should be revisiting the caulk.
I tell everybody after, they recommend every 5 years. In reality, it's probably closer to 10 to sometimes 15 with the products that are out these days. That being said, I tell everybody after 5 years, take a look.
Yeah.
You can usually see whether the caulk starts to discolor or whether you start to see cracks and it looks a little brittle. If you start to see that, it's time.
Right.
Other than that, though, like I said, nowadays they have so many different products, so many different sealants, silicones, and caulk that to me, it's probably closer to that 10, maybe even stretch it to 15-year mark. But all you have to do is look.
Yeah.
You know, and once you look and you say, hey, I think it's time, even if you want peace of mind, do it every 5 years. You can if you want. You might not have to, but it'll prevent so many problems because, you know, let's say you have a house with 25, 30 windows. That $2,000 to $3,500 just to caulk seal the windows could save you tens of thousands in the future when you go to either sell your house or if you end up having water and mold issues and you're living there and you have to deal with it.
Yeah.
So to me, it's kind of a no-brainer. I think you budget for it every 5 years, and if you don't do it, great. But it's because whatever you're doing is working.
Yep. And another reason I always love dealing with you guys specifically is because of your communication with the clients, not just my clients, right? Because when we had a $60,000 quote and then I come in with an $18,000 quote, they're asking questions like, why is it so much cheaper? Is it going to be done right? This and that. But not only do you don't just provide me with a very detailed quote, which I can provide to them, but you hop on the phone with them, you know. And I think that is so important because they're not hearing it from me, you know, they're hearing it from a construction professional.
Of course. I actually joke around whether I'm talking to an agent or a buyer or a seller. Half of my job is therapy and arbitration. I mean, I mean it. It's because there's not a lot of expertise that's just out there on the streets about this. And a lot of people don't know. And if you go online and you read, or if you happen to get an inspector who happens to be more of a doom and gloom type of inspector, or you get an agent who maybe they had a bad experience in the past and they're just so one-sided on, hey, you got to tear it off or don't even look at it. I understand that. I also am fully aware whether you're buying or selling, this is the last thing that people want to spend money on.
Yeah.
Unless you're like, hey, we want a new exterior and you have you have the financial ability to do it. Most people are doing this for the purpose of selling or buying a home. They have to do it. A little bit of peace of mind involved. So to me, I understand this isn't a kitchen, this isn't a basement, this isn't a pool. Let's explain this is what's actually necessary. Let's focus on that. And if we're gonna do that, this is what your cost should be. And I've worked with you, I've worked with other agents and even clients. I'm like, look, we're not gonna win every job. I understand that. It is what it is. It's the nature of the beast. At the very least, I can turn around to you and say, if somebody's charging you more than this, have a little bit of cause on that and say, why is it more than this? And if someone's charging you significantly less than this, it's the same question.
Right.
I don't believe this could possibly cover what's needed to be done.
Right.
I think we're very fair in our pricing. And again, it's really a situation where it's unknown because even when you get the inspection, which is uber important, especially for us just to locate the issues, until you start taking stucco off or until you can see it, you don't know the extent of the problem yet, unless you have the experience, in which case we do obviously, but to me, you have to at least cover your bases when it comes to that.
Yeah. So this is a message to all realtors out there. If you have a stucco problem, if you have a stucco house, if you're selling or buying a stucco house, it's not the end of the world. I've dealt with this. I've sold many stucco houses, and what I come across is a lot of like common misconceptions, like, oh, it's a stucco house, that means I have to pull off all the siding and reside the house, which of course is an option, and that's going to cost a lot of money. But there's other options too. I've had people not want to buy a house or even see a house because it had that, like, they didn't like the color of the stucco, and I'm like, that can change, you
Very
know that,
easily,
right?
yes.
Like, what color options are there? Can you do whatever you want, basically?
You can virtually, whether you're actually putting new stucco on, there's plenty of different dyes and color mixes that you can use. But what we do, especially when it comes to remediation, is we paint stucco with an elastomeric paint. It's a breathable product, meaning it's meant to keep water out. It doesn't necessarily trap water in. That's what a lot of people are afraid of. Okay, well, what happens if water does get behind here? Does that mean that it just sits there? No, that's not the case. It's designed for stucco and masonry products. And it basically acts as an additional vapor barrier on the exterior of the house. I think it's, without a doubt, worth it. Every remediation job we're doing, especially if we're only doing a certain wall or a couple walls or a partial wall with an expansion joint that's going to basically go through the two different sections of stucco that we're going to be doing, I always paint it. It's just part of what I do. And as far as color goes, you can pick any color you want. We tend to use Sherwin-Williams for paint, and basically anything on their color wheel, we can tint. And if you don't want to do that, and it is just a specific wall, we can also take a piece of stucco that's existing and actually get a color match. And they're pretty darn good at matching colors.
Yeah, they are. So let's talk about service areas.
Sure.
Where do we cover?
You talk about just in general.
Where will we go?
Bucks County, Montgomery County, Delaware County. We'll go into New Jersey, Mercer, all the way down to Camden, anything in between. Philadelphia, Chester County, pretty much anywhere and everywhere in the Philadelphia area, both on the Jersey side and actually even into northern Delaware. We'll go anywhere. When it comes to remediation, there's really not a job that's too big or too small for us. Again, we understand what the purpose of this specific area of construction is. So any way we can help out, that's kind of the way that we look at it.
And we do not only stucco remediation, as we said, we do a lot more than that. We do, if somebody does want to remove the stucco and reside, great, we can absolutely do that entire job start to finish, roofs, windows.
Correct. Roofs, windows, decks, patios. I think one of the things that we've been able to really explain both to the agents and to the homeowners and the clients, our roots in this business are in more of a general contracting sense. So we understand the homes inside and out, meaning I know what it means to remove a deck in order to complete a remediation project. I know when a patio or grading of land is what's causing the issue. I know when it's actually the window is what's causing it versus the stucco system. And because of that, it really helps us to be pretty pinpoint on when we give an estimate on that. Hey, this is probably what it is. And on the flip side, hey, if we're here and you are interested in either putting in a new patio or a new deck or it doesn't exist there, we can also kind of walk you through that process. We can walk you through that process from both a water penetration standpoint. How are we going to do this to make sure, hey, this new deck or this new patio isn't going to cause any leaking into the house? And also as it pertains to whatever kind of exterior you want to put on, we know exactly how we're doing it, how to flash it. And
yeah, I mean, and additions as well. Whole
Correct.
house additions. Yep. What I find, what I always appreciate, another thing, is not only communication but response time and how quickly you're able to get out there. So, talk to me about from the time you get the call to the time they get the quote to the time we're on site doing the work.
So yeah, that's a great, it's actually one of my most common questions, especially considering the nature of this project. Usually it's, hey, I only have so much time to respond to inspections, and then after that, we got this much time till closing, and we gotta get it done before closing. So generally, we're really prepared for that. I don't know if I ever have ever told somebody, hey, I flat out can't fit in that time frame. For us, if I get a call, I'm already looking at the schedule. What's your schedule? What's the availability? What's my availability to go on the property with or without you? That's usually happening within a day or so, and depending on an emergency, if I can get out same day, I will. And then as far as a quote goes, it's kind of the same situation. If it takes longer than 2 days to quote a project, it's usually because we're told we don't need this second.
Yep.
We understand that certain projects take a little bit more priority when it comes to time, and we're very transparent about that with all of our clients. Hey, I have to kind of do this ahead of time because they're closing this week. I don't have an option. And then from there, as far as starting the project goes, we are never more than a month out, and I would say a month is pretty darn long. It's usually
for actually starting the work.
for actually starting the work. It's usually within a week or two that we can actually be out and on site if that is what they're asking for, which is nice. And I know that's helped close some deals. It's helped put some agents and some buyers and some sellers in a little more advantageous positions than they felt before they called us.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of contractors don't understand the real estate market and the process the way that you do. So like you're sensitive to the issues, and you know, coming up with common sense solutions, making everybody feel okay with it. You know, I think that's a big part of it. Buyers and sellers, and you know, because you guys are fair on pricing, responsive and professional, like I don't think that, like, I would never go to anybody else. Like, even before we had a company together,
Yeah.
I would never go to anybody else. I had, how many different kinds of jobs did I have you look at?
Of course.
Foundations, slabs and basements, you know, support beams and, you know, in basements, all kinds of things, you know. So that's another thing I wanted to talk about is to all you agents out there who have inspection issues. I mean, they're not super common, but they are becoming more common. I mean, we do have a little bit more inventory than we had, so I am seeing some inspections happen. When you have an inspection issue, no matter what it is, inside the house, outside the house, it doesn't matter. Like, we can help you with that and get you through that, whether it's working out a credit that's fair and we start the job afterwards, or if they need something done prior to closing. I mean, we're never booked out more than a month, so.
No, and I think you bring up a good point. The inspectors out there do an awesome job, both with stucco and just general home inspections. There are times where, hey, they might recommend or believe one thing's another, and they're usually very good about, you need to get a contractor out here to actually give you an opinion. The best I can do is give you an opinion, maybe a general range. There have been times where we've been able to go out and, hey, they thought this was gonna cost 30 grand, and the more we look at it, we're like, it's probably only a $2,500 job, the way that really needs to be done. And you sit there and everybody looks at you like, what, are you crazy? And then once you explain it to them, and if needed, which we've done before, if you have to get in touch with the inspector and say, this is what we're thinking, talk through that. This way everybody's on the same page. And you're totally right. I mean, I can't tell you how many times we've bailed agents out, and look, we don't always get the work, and I understand that, but if we can help, we're, at the end of the day, that's a positive for us too.
Yep, and I mean, I keep talking to the agents because I am one, and I know how important it is to have like really good, quick contractors. But let's talk about commercial.
Sure.
We have some commercial jobs going on right now.
Yes, we do.
What can we do on the commercial side?
Commercial side is pretty similar to the residential side, you know, whether it be exterior makeovers. You don't necessarily see the remediation side in commercial as much. Sales aren't as often. It's just not something anybody's looking at. Plus the system usually is different. You don't see a lot of hard coat stucco on commercial buildings. That being said, I mean, whether it's siding or a fiber cement siding or a stucco, whether it's a brick or stone facade, and it could be, you know, large scale, 20 to 40,000 square feet to, you know, 500 to 1,000 square feet if it's a single building. And then we also do some interior work as well, some makeovers, flooring, countertops, painting.
I mean, we can build a house from the ground up.
Correct.
I mean,
Correct.
we do everything on the inside, everything on the outside. Our focus is on the outside because, you know, it's just kind of, especially in the real estate world, you know, we can get in and out, minimal disruptions, and get the deal to the closing table. You
Correct.
know, interior work, you know, we have subcontractors that can do whatever you guys need. So
Most of the interior work we do is, hey, while you're here, we're thinking about doing this, this, and this too. Great.
Sure.
We have access to that too.
Finishing basements, renovating kitchens, bathrooms,
Whatever it may do.
flooring, painting,
Correct.
everything.
And we obviously have a history that I mentioned, our general contracting history in general. But what we're focused on, especially with this company, is the exterior. That does not necessarily pigeonhole us to that. But yeah, when it comes to commercial and residential, it's kind of across the board the same way, and that also includes roofing, large scale commercial roofing, large scale residential roofing. We're kind of a one-stop shop when it comes to the exterior. The only thing we don't do is landscaping, but we do have plenty of subs and contractors that can help you with landscaping and some hardscaping if we don't do it.
Right. So to give you guys an idea, I mean, right now we're doing a few stucco jobs, a commercial whole exterior renovation, decks. We have quotes out for a whole pool house that's being built.
Outdoor living spaces,
yeah,
patios, like
huge commercial roof here in Newtown. We have a bid out for. So, whatever you guys need, it give us a call. If we can't do it, we'll tell you. But there's not much we can't do.
That's correct, too. And the other thing I do want to stress also, we don't charge for our estimates or our time when it comes to phone conversations. I understand that's part of the business, and if anything, like I mentioned, we're in a very unique situation in that our thought, it usually tends to how can we help before it is how does it help our own pockets. That's kind of why we handle pricing in a certain way, and that's also why I can't tell you how many calls I get on a given week where I'm just giving advice, and I'm happy to do that.
Yep.
And at some point we'll work them out of it, maybe, probably, but guess what? At the end of the day, if we're helping somebody else, and whether it's gain knowledge or get through a specific sale of property or a specific project, we're so happy to do that. It's something that's very rewarding for us, I would say.
Yep, and this whole thing was born off of the relationship that we built over years, and we wouldn't have been able to build that had you guys not been able to or willing to even just come out and meet my clients and tell me how much work we're looking at here if we buy this house. I mean, it's happened. I've had you out, my boy Pete.
Yeah.
I had you out before he bought the house to take a look at, just give an exterior look at this stucco house. Like, hey, was this done right? Can you tell what are signs here? Was it done right? The material, sure, it may be deteriorating. We don't know for sure if there's problems behind, but was it done right? Can give you an idea of like, should we expect major issues?
Yeah, and I similar to that job, it's the same thing. I think we're fair both in our opinions and our pricing, in that if I think, hey, to code this isn't necessarily done correct, but I'm not telling you have to tear this whole thing off. We don't know if there's water, and I think that's where the fairness really comes into play. I know there's other contractors out there and there's other inspectors out there that'll tell you, well, because it's not done right, we should redo all this, replace all the windows, replace all the stucco. And the next
that's
thing
in their best interest. Right?
Exactly.
It's not in the client's or the deal's best interest. It's in that
Correct.
contractor's best interest.
Correct, and that's just not how we approach things.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that we're not out to work and do the project correctly, and make sure that everybody at the end of the day, not just for now but longevity wise, it lasts. But our whole thing is what's fair, what's right, and let's focus on that first, and then if we have to adjust from there, we will. We're going to adjust with over communication, which you've mentioned in the past. I think that's huge for us. I think that's very helpful both with clients and realtors. How do we communicate? How much I'd rather somebody tell me, hey, you're telling me too much information, than I didn't get enough from you.
Yeah. All right, now we're gonna break.
Okay.
And we're gonna say, you can keep that running because this is gonna clip it, but I'm gonna put something out there for lunch and learns.
Okay.
Say all right, so we talked a lot about stucco today. If you're an agent or broker, if you wanna have us in for a lunch and learn, we're happy to bring lunch, pizza, sandwiches, whatever, maybe something a little more healthy for this guy. But let us know. We're happy to come into the office for an hour, teach you guys what we do, how we're different, how our company's different, and how we essentially get deals to the closing table.
Yeah, and I would say even more so than telling you about us, it's more information for you as the agent. How can you better assist your own clients and actually get to settlement when you're dealing with a sticky situation? I can't tell you how many times we get calls and you find out really quickly the reason why this is a struggle is because neither side really understands the process, understands the situation. We've done lunch and learns in the past in many other offices, and it's always surrounding what is the agent's biggest issue in this? We're not necessarily trying to sell you anything. It's more of, hey, how can we prepare you the next time you enter in a situation like this? And oh, by the way, you don't have to pretend like you're the expert. You can always call us. That's the other thing. Call us. Have your client call us. Ask us whatever questions they are. I told you I don't charge you for time like that. I expect that that's part of the issue, and I know this is it's a unique problem and not one that everybody's dying to really tackle. So let us tackle it for you.
Yep, so if you're interested in Lunch and Learn, we're booking for October and November right now. Stucco remediation, all things inspection. You know, we'll take a whole home inspection report and whatever those issues are and get them resolved as quickly and as easily as possible.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
I'm good with that too.